how you manage some immersion even if I'm busy, and like this is actually a very useful topic that probably is going to be helpful for anyone. So without me, I make this videos just to improve my speaking on English. I'm not a native. Like I have been studying Japanese for an around of like 10 months, and the first anime doing immersion was like 4 months ago, Horimiya, and I couldn't even understand a 20% to 30%. Right now I'm watching Steins Gate 4 months after, and I can understand probably and honestly an 80 to 85%. So that's actually a lot. So this guide is for you if you work for 8 hours a day, go to school or university. If you don't want to put effort, probably just click off the video, honestly. So the first thing that you're probably doing is that you have to wake up early. So if you have to wake up at, I don't know, 7 a.m., 8 a.m., and you really have to wake up like early to go to work or to go to school, how do you think you're going to manage like to put actually some immersion in? So at what hour do you think I do wake up to like make the video, to like do Anki for 1 hour, to do immersion? Of course I wake up like ultra early, right? So, like I wake up at fucking 3 a.m. So like this is actually, I wake up at 3 a.m. like sometimes 3:30, so sometimes 4 a.m. Like it doesn't matter. The thing is that you do wake up early to actually at least do Anki before going to your work, because doing Anki after your work is not going to work. That's actually kind of funny. So it's not going to work because doing Anki is actually very mentally draining. So if you are trying to do Anki after you go to work, that's just not going to work, you know? So yeah, that's the first thing. Do things before doing something that you do not like. So if you like doing immersion, right, do it before you go to work. That's actually how it should work, right? So there are some people that actually can't do this. So for example, they go to work at 3 a.m. or at 4 a.m. or at 5 a.m., right? So for those people, I will actually recommend to, because they actually can't do this, right? They actually have to wake up really early. So the only option that you have to do is that when you come from work to your house, you just instantly do your Anki, and that's it. I mean, yeah, you can actually, you probably will be tired, but you actually do have to do it if you actually want to get some reps in your immersion. Like that's the only option you probably have, right? And the other option that you have is that if you have some time free on your work, you probably do want to do Anki on that free time, or in your school, in your uni. I actually had some time free in my uni, like 1 hour to 2 hours sometimes, and in those hours I just actually do Anki. So yeah, that's probably one thing that you want to do. So another thing that you're probably not doing is just passive listening. So the way passive listening works is that you leave passive listening playing for like 24 hours on your phone, right? And then you have like some earpods, right? Earpods, and you put them on whenever you have free time on your school or on your uni. So like it should be very comfortable for you to actually be hearing, to actually hear something like passive listening, right? So if you're learning Japanese, it's very useful for you probably to download a lot of podcasts or streams and put them on a file and leave them playing on your phone for like 24 hours. So it's very comfortable for you to actually hear them. So a podcast that I will recommend is just this one, Yuyu no Nihongo podcast, because it's the only one I actually do here. So because I actually most of my day I just do immersion, so that's kind of it. So passive listening is not going to get you fluent if you do not pay attention to it. Remember that, like if you just leave it on the back and you do not pay attention to it, you are not going to get fluent with passive listening. Passive listening is just a means for you to actually get some active listening in. So you're going to have some times in which you're kind of distracted, right? And you're not going to pay attention to passive listening. but there are some times in which you are going to pay attention to passive listening, and in those times it's not passive anymore. It's it goes to actually be active listening, right? So when you are doing active listening, that's actually when you're probably going to get fluent on the language and understand most things. And like, for active listening to work, you actually have to be studying some vocabulary on Anki probably. So you want to be studying vocabulary to actually for actually passive listening to work. So that's kind of how you have to do it. So the last thing that I'm going to say to you is that you're doing other things. Probably you're watching a lot of TikTok. Probably you're watching a lot of YouTube and Instagram. So these things, you actually should replace them for immersion. So if you are doing anything of these ones, the thing that is I will most recommend, because you are actually probably spending like 2 hours of your day in TikTok. That's actually very possible, or 2 hours of your day in YouTube, which is actually very possible as well. So why not just replace those hours with immersion? Like, haven't you thought about that? Like, replace TikTok with Japanese TikTok. I don't know, or German TikTok, Italian TikTok. Like, it doesn't matter, right? The same with YouTube. Like, why would you not replace? Why would you not replace it? Like, the thing about this is that if you're not willing to sacrifice things or to replace things, why are you doing this? Like, if you're not willing to sacrifice things, if you want to really like study the language and notice progress, like, maybe you should not be watching a guide like this, honestly. So if you are not willing to replace TikTok with like Japanese TikToks, which is actually kind of the same thing, honestly, and the same with YouTube, like, replace it with YouTube videos of Japanese people. So it's kind of the same thing, honestly. You can find something that it's on your interest. So the same with Instagram. I actually do not use Instagram, but like, maybe you do. So like, if you're that's the thing. Like, if you're not willing to replace the things that you enjoy just to achieve your goal, you're probably not going to obtain something as a very meaningful result. So you are not probably going to learn Japanese in 3 years, in 4 years. You're probably going to learn Japanese in 5 years. So if you do these things that I actually tell you, you probably will learn Japanese in like 2 years, honestly. So it's actually very worth it if you want to actually put that work in. So that's actually why I say that if you don't want to put effort, just probably click off the video, because it's not going to be useful for you. So thank you very much, and I hope that this was actually helpful to you.